Welcome to another episode of Plant.Body.Soul podcast. I'm your host, Gordon, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Kirk Strawn, the founder of Walter Productions. Kirk, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Sitting here with friends on a cool afternoon in Phoenix.
Absolutely. So happy you're here.
Grateful.
Kirk, take a moment and if you would, just tell us a little bit about yourself and specifically your background before Walter Productions.
I am married to an amazing person named Mary Strawn. I have two daughters, and we live here in Phoenix, and we are involved in a lot of interesting projects around the valley. We run a not-for-profit called the Walter Hive, which is really focused on tapping into art as a way to build resilience and to heal. And then we have a number of kind of places for people to gather and have fun and step away from the humdrum of normal life. And we try to feed people. We're learning how to do that. And really just try to create interesting places for people to go. And that's all part of this thing called the Walter Project. So all of those things that we do on a kind of a work day-to-day basis are all under this umbrella of this thing called Walter. But before that, I'm a physician and Great. I'm retired. I'm a family doctor, but I grew up in a farm in Iowa and grew up as kind of a farm kid and did all of my early learning really on the farm and out in kind of rural Iowa. And then I went to medical school at University of Iowa. Okay. Ended up there because I was going to be a veterinarian.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
From the time I was a very tiny boy, when I could barely walk, apparently I could say the word veterinarian. And so from then until my senior year of college, I was actually going to be a veterinarian. And I told everyone that. I went to got all the best grades to go to the best veterinary college in the country, which was Iowa State University. And then I, at the very last minute, realized I actually didn't like being around ill animals.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I actually just loved animals.
Sure.
I loved animals.
Healthy animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love playing with animals. I love everything related to animals, but I actually did not like it when they were sick.
Yeah. Could be fairly traumatic, I would imagine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, farming and veterinary medicine is a challenging environment for sure.
Absolutely.
And so I decided I was going to go to medical school, and I went to medical school, and there I really fell in love with like older, more ill patients. Like just the connection with them was very, very strong. And so I came to Arizona actually to pursue a family medicine career.
Oh, wow.
I never ended up doing that.
And where did you meet Mary?
County Hospital. I was at the end of my training, I was there doing an orthopedic rotation, and this young boy had knelt down on a nail and it pierced his knee joint. And he got what's called a septic arthritis, which is infection inside of his knee joint. Ooh. And so I got a page. This is 1989 or ish, something like that. And so I got this page, and I went down to the emergency room, the pediatric emergency room, and there was this young woman in there. It's completely empty. And I'd done a lot of rotations. I really enjoy pediatrics. I like really elderly people, and I like really young people and all the people in between. But I liked this, I liked pediatrics a lot. So I hung out in this clinic all the time. And I walk in, and it was the first time I'd ever seen only one person sitting in the pediatric clinic ever. It's a Saturday afternoon. And it was a young woman with really short hair, Converse tennis shoes, and was reading Lady Chatterley's Lover. Oh. And she looked up from her book. As I asked her, I said, who has the kid with the knee? And she looked up, and I fell madly in love with her right that moment. And now we've been married for 30 years, basically.
Oh, that's a great story.
It's a very sweet story. I just knowing the two of you, and being present with the two of you, your relationship is very inspiring, and you can definitely feel and see the love. It's very impressive.
Yeah, we're really good friends. We've been together for a very long time. We marry each other every 5 years, and our 7th wedding is coming up here in just a couple months. So
that's awesome.
This fall.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that.
Tell us a little bit more about the Walter Project as a whole.
Yeah. Probably goes back to Mary and I got married. We're both physicians, and we started off on an absolutely normal physician path. We're both working. We had big salaries. We bought a house. We have a mortgage. We had all this whole thing. And then we got pregnant with our first daughter, Emily. Mm-hmm. And Mary had this amazing idea that we should not follow the normal path. We should spend time raising Emily. And so we moved into our garage, a little 450 square foot house.
Okay.
And Mary stopped working at that point, and I went to half-time, and we started to raise Emily in our little garage. We rented out our house so we could live for free. Wow. And I think that action basically started to challenge, do you have to do everything in the normal way?
Right.
And so we, as part of this, we had another daughter. We lived in that little tiny house for 5 years, and then we moved into a school bus, and we started kind of traveling around in that school bus. And as part of that, we fell in love with this way of it. So I know that meditation is certainly something that's very important in the PBS world.
Yep.
And during that same time, I became very involved as a physician with a program at the University of Massachusetts in Worcester, Mass, which was very focused on the very highest risk patient populations, mostly elderly adults, that there were few treatments that often would make these folks better. But a group there at University of Massachusetts figured out that meditation, yoga, together in an 8-week program done very consistently was starting to have amazing effects, no matter what was wrong with you. And that program, which is probably now 40 years old or something like that, it's probably the largest body of knowledge, of research knowledge around the use of meditation and yoga, really has a root in UMass. And that program, John Kabat-Zinn and Saki Santarelli were the kind of pioneers of that program. And so I started, at the same time that we moved into that little house, I started getting very interested in other ways of taking care of the very ill. The reason why I didn't go into veterinary medicine was because I went to the veterinary school, and I was able to tour around with senior students. And one of the places that they took us on the tour was into a room that was all full of dogs. And it was part of the orientation for me, a brand new veterinary student who's going to be part of the thing. But the weird thing was there were all these bottles, so they could drink water, and they all had tubes and bandages around them. And they were all happy to see us, and they were wagging their tails and all that. And they were dogs that in your senior year of a veterinary school, you do multiple operations on that dog prior to euthanizing the dog at the end of the semester.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow.
So in that one moment, I had taken an entire lifetime of, I'm going to be a veterinarian. And I said, I'm never going to be a veterinarian.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I went into human medicine because I said, there's no way that is the way that we take care of our human friends, right?
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
But I can remember being in residency, and actually it was the end of medical school, and I was in the veterans hospital, and I had 15 patients on my service, all nearing the end of their lives, all hooked up to tubes. And I said, oh shit, I ended up back exactly where I was trying to not end up.
Right.
And so I decided at that point that I was going to spend as much of the rest of my time as I could seeing if there were other ways to better take care of us, like at the most challenging parts of our life. Sure. And so I somehow ended up in this space of looking for complementary and alternative treatments that were in addition to the standard medical treatment. And I spent about 10 years, I learned acupuncture. I got all of the hospitals and the naturopathic school, the chiropractic school, the homeopathic school, all together to start talking about how could we actually deliver better care for very ill patients. And so we had this amazing organization called the Arizona Consortium of Complementary Healing Organizations. Mayo was part of it, Banner was part of it, Scottsdale Memorial, and all those other colleges that I told you about. And we're not talking about Walter at all yet, I guess.
No,
right?
that's okay.
This is
Please
great.
keep going.
This
This
is
is great. Yeah. No, we want to hear
great.
all
But
of
this
this.
is Walter.
Sure.
Yeah, this is the story of you.
This is the Walter story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Quite honestly.
Absolutely.
And so I got really into what else we could do. And so I started to learn about meditation, hatha yoga, and a procedure, a practice called body scan, which I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And started bringing that back to groups of patients back where I was working, back at this medical group. And I started seeing the same thing as people had improvements
Sure.
that the conventional system was not able to produce.
Yeah.
And I come from a very scientific background, and I believe that you take everything you can from the conventional system that will work for you, but then round it out with the things that they don't offer.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that was always kind of this idea of a kind of system that could really take care of just about everybody. You know, you get to kind of pick and choose in this kind of system. But what I learned was personally that mindfulness is like, I mean,
It's everything.
yeah, it's like, do you have any idea what's going on right now or not
Yeah.
Yeah.
around you? Like,
Yeah.
do you have any idea what's happening sort of around
or
you
even
right now?
inside
Inside
of
of
you.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Right?
Very true. Yeah. So I started on a very intense personal practice of sitting meditation. And I would teach yoga, but I've not done yoga a lot. I was really drawn to Tai Chi. And, but I always also kind of get about an eighth of an inch deep into a lot of different subjects. So I learned enough Tai Chi that I thought could last me for the rest of my life. You know, that's sort of, I know just enough.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just like I only follow my breath. I never took it any deeper.
Yeah.
Like my breath is a lifetime of work from my perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mary and I are like living in a school bus. We have these two babies. We're deciding that we're not going to fall into necessarily the conventional channels. And we decided to homeschool our daughters through middle school. We had decided that we would give them one more chance to live like in a vehicle with us and drive around.
Yeah.
And we would go to Burning Man. And on that trip, we end up at Burning Man. They're like 10 and 11 or whatever. And we saw this art and we saw this community. And it was probably my youngest daughter, Charlotte, who literally just became so enthralled with this thing that was Burning Man. I asked her on the way, home that after the first time, I said, why? And she said, because nobody cares. Nobody cares, like, if I can ride a bike or not. Nobody cares if I decide to act funny. Nobody cares what I wear. And she totally got acceptance, and that was her That was how I interpreted her.
Yeah.
Sure.
her- and she got it. Like, she got it from the very, very beginning. And that's where Walter came out of.
Yeah.
We wanted to bring something back. So my daughter Charlotte, she built Pug Bug, which was our first art care. And then I
didn't know
built
that.
Walter. Yeah. So we took them both back in 2009. 2007 we went. 2008 we worked. 2009 we brought art cars. And so Charlotte brought Pug Bug, and this will be Pug Bug's 13th year, I think, this
Yep.
year or something like that. And I brought a very rudimentary early version of Walter the bus.
Amazing.
Wow. That's incredible. And it makes sense because, so like the fact that you and Mary lived in a bus and had the girls in a bus, like this theme of like the bus is,
Yeah, the bus is freedom. So
Yeah.
from an artistic sort of statement perspective, Walter's very first kind of personification is about freedom. The Volkswagen bus gave a generation an opportunity with very little money. If you could work on the engine yourself and the vehicle, you could go out and live your life out free. So
Sure.
that was kind of the very first kind of idea.
Sure.
After second chances. Second chances was like we took this old fire truck that was broken down in a mine in Jerome and brought it down and turned him into Walter the bus. So second chances is kind of at the core, and then freedom is the second idea.